I think another key factor of London's success has been the range of financing opportunities it offers companies. I think unlike a lot of other of our competing markets, we have a very broadly based spectrum of sectors accessing growth capital, equity capital in London. We are not just, despite obviously the attributes that London has in things like natural resources, mining, oil and gas. The London story is a lot more diverse than just a natural resources story. I think we have significant expertise in finance, in energy, in infrastructure, in telecommunications and technology, and I think that's demonstrated here compared to our largest international competitors in terms of international listings. Also, another key factor of London's success as a financial market really does come down to the investor base available in London. Firstly, it's worth talking about the investors and the investment pool residing in London. I think clearly we see one of the largest pools of investment funds under management globally. We see the largest pool of international investment funds globally in London. I think you see a nature of investors in London that is uniquely placed to helping companies finance their growth, not just at IPO, but further down the line with secondary fundraisings. The London markets are uniquely institutional in their makeup. So if you take London in comparison to New York, you find approximately 60 to 70% of the total funds in London are institutional funds. They're pension funds, they're insurance funds investing into the equity market. And about 30 to 40% are retail funds. That mix is reversed in a market such as the US, which is a much more retail-dominated market, and that mix is also obviously very different here in India, where we have a very strong retail base, and also the FII base of institutions, and also developing a domestic fund management industry, but obviously with some regulatory restrictions on what they can invest in. But obviously, a key thing about London, I think, is not just the funds available in London, but the international funds that will invest through London. And you have a number of factors driving that. You have confidence in the disclosure standards and the regulatory model. You have even something as basic as the time zone that London operates in, the ability for people to invest in London, to get a clear window across the global trading day, really I think does drive a lot of fund management activity into London. So here is just a reflection of the funds that we see in London, the fact that we have more international equity assets under management in London compared to any other financial centre, and also on the second point that we have more equity assets managed by foreign investors through London than any other financial centre. I think really you do see this unique confluence of funds. If you want access to Asia Pacific or Middle East funds, you will find them in London. If you want access to US institutional funds, you will find them in London. I think the only major international investor group you will not be able to access in London are US retail. If an Indian issuer wants access to US retail investors, then clearly has to undergo SEC registration, listing potentially on the US market. And I think there come a number of disbenefits with that route in terms of compliance costs and also the associated volatility you might get with a retail investor base. So London is really uniquely placed in its investor pool it offers companies. So really, where does the London Stock Exchange sit at the heart of that financial centre, and how do we structure our markets to offer financing alternatives and options for the broadest range of companies possible from the broadest range of international markets? The first thing that I'm sure many of you are aware is that the London Stock Exchange is not just one market. We operate a number of different markets, giving a differentiated route of markets and differentiated entry points for companies. So we have our main market, which is open to issuers wanting to list equity, or GDRs, and that in itself is segmented into different standards, onto the premium standards and the standard. We've seen obviously a number of Indian issuers use the main market very effectively to raise money. One of the most notable ones obviously was SR Energy, last year listed on the premium segment on the main market, equity listing, and structured that deal in a way to facilitate entry into the benchmark FTSE 100 with the huge benefits of liquidity and lower cost of capital that market operates. The professional securities market is a parallel market to the main market in many ways, used by depository receipt issuers. It enables companies bringing GDRs to the market come to the market, but to use home country accounting standards to list and for their ongoing obligations. So if an Indian company is wanting to list GDRs as part of a secondary listing, it would already have an Indian listing back here on the BSE or the NSE. Then if it is reporting only in Indian accounting standards, at the moment it has the option of listing on the main market where Indian accounting standards are deemed acceptable, but also the professional securities market has always been a market that has been open to those other accounting standards. Our specialist funds market, as its name suggests, is a market that we have formulated that gives many of the regulatory benefits of being an EU-regulated market, having your admission document checked and approved by the UK listing authority in the UK, but has a great degree of flexibility, enabling things like funds of funds, enabling hedge funds, launching permanent capital vehicles, and increasingly enabling infrastructure funds and other investment funds to list on the market. And finally, and the main focus of obviously today's seminar is AIM, which is clearly our international and UK-focused growth companies market that is very much differentiated and has a tailored regulatory model and an ongoing obligations model to the other markets to facilitate access to international capital for both smaller growing companies. So really just a few words about AIM, which will clearly be expanded in much greater detail by a number of speakers afterwards. AIM was founded by the London Stock Exchange in 1995, and very much from its inception it was structured with the needs of smaller companies in mind, and the rulebook and the regulatory model for AIM was designed with very close consultation of the strong small cap investor community and advisory community we see in London. AIM has a regulated model that is very different to our main market in a number of regards. The main one to focus on to begin with is the fact that AIM as a market is a market that is actually exchange regulated. So it's a market that is regulated by the London Stock Exchange. So we are ultimately responsible for drawing up the rulebook of AIM. We're ultimately responsible for the regulatory integrity of AIM and the day-to-day running of the market. We are clearly answerable to the FSA, our regulator in London, but the day-to-day running of AIM and the admissions are guided by the London Stock Exchange. However, a key part of our regulatory responsibilities are in effect subcontracted or deferred out to a very key advisor, the nominated advisor, which you'll hear about more shortly, but acts as in many ways a regulator to the companies. You see the Nomad being regulated itself by the London Stock Exchange. You see the Nomad having a great deal of responsibility for ensuring that companies that it brings to the market comply with the rules, and that also puts its name to those companies in terms of that company's conduct going forward.